Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Games podcast for episode 172. This week we're getting a Ghost of Yotei state of play. Neil Druckmann has left HBO's The Last of Us and a whole lot more headlines around the video game world. I'm your host, Patrick, and joining me this week, a new face on Spotlight Games. Maybe not if you're listening to our episodes in our chat. Gianni DiCrosta, the homie, joining, rolling through to be the co-host today. Gianni, welcome to the show. How you doing?
What's going on, Patrick? I am doing amazing. I'm immaculate. How are you doing today?
I took a little nap earlier, and I don't know. Are you a napper, Gianni?
Oh my God, big time napper. When I have the time.
Sure.
Big time napper.
I love a nap, but oftentimes a nap just like zaps me. Like I wake up, I either feel like shit, but it's the kind of thing where it's like I can't say no to the nap because I'm that tired. But then it just like I either sleep too long, I don't sleep enough, and I woke up at like 6:45, so an hour 15 before we go live, and I'm just like, man, I made a huge mistake. But now, like I took a couple Tylenol, and I had some Coca-Cola. And I'm
crazy,
ready.
Patrick. You're getting crazy.
I'm buzzing with excitement. Also because you're on the show for the first time, and I'm very excited. For those of you that don't know, Gianni DiCrosta has been in our chat here at Spotlight Games for a long time, and I over in the Discord of Drop and Drop Out. If you don't join the Discord already, dropanddropoutpod.com. Super active in the Discord, and we have a channel in the Discord where our community can drop things that they're doing, whether it's video essays or podcasts they're on, or blogs they write, that kind of thing. And maybe like a month or two ago, Gianni dropped a video. I don't remember even the topic of it, but I clicked on it and I was like, yo, this guy's got the voice. This guy's got the juice. And so from that video, I was like, all right, I need to start figuring out how can I bring Gianni on the show. And then I don't want to just steal your thunder. You made an announcement this week, Gianni. Talk to me about it.
I did. Yeah, no, well, first of all, thank you for the praise. I really appreciate that. I quit my job, which was a pretty big step. I took a page from the book of Jerkachu. And I decided, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. So I'm betting on myself for the first time in my whole life. And I decided to step out on my own. And here we are, already making big moves on the Spotlight Games podcast.
Boom. Boom. So with that, Gianni, so you quit your job. There's a video on your YouTube, what is your YouTube channel for people that don't know?
It's my first name, last name, at Gianni DiCrosta, at YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. You'll find me. As long as you look at my first name, last name, you'll find me.
Boom. On this announcement video, you talk about kind of your plan. You have a content plan. What is your content plan? Because you don't have a job. You got a lot of time on your hands all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things in my, last, 10, 11 years in the corporate world and, 20 plus years of working, I'm very schedule oriented. It kind of helps me get what I need to get done. And now that I have all this free time on my hands, I'm really looking to kind of flood the market with this mug that you see before you right here. Right.
Yes.
So I'm going to be releasing long form content once a week on Mondays. I'm going to be releasing at least 3 short form pieces of content on my TikTok and on my YouTube in the form of shorts, as well as my Instagram. And then I'm also going to be streaming 3 times a week. So every Monday morning with my coffee in hand. I got my coffee in hand right now. I'm an espresso guy. And then Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 10 a.m. on Mondays, Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, jumping into some indie titles, some long plays, things of that sort. So like I said, I'm really looking to flood the market and be everywhere that you want to be. I want to be there. So I'm really excited.
Flood the market. I love that.
Flood the market. That's right.
Gianni, you're West Coast. It's 5 p.m. Yes, you're having an espresso at 5 p.m.?
Oh my gosh. Any time of the day, Patrick. I'll get 6 a.m., 5 p.m., 8 p.m., 11 p.m.
Really?
It's always a good time. It's always a good time for an espresso.
Man,
I'm Italian, Patrick. You got to understand.
Sure. I did just say I had a soda pop.
Oh.
After dinner. So I shouldn't necessarily be throwing shade, but like late caffeine for me, ooh, it'll tear me up. I will be up.
No, I'm going straight for the main vein.
I love it. Well, Gianni, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you. We're going to be asking you some more questions here in a bit. But first, we got a lot of video game stuff to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games podcast where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time right here on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod. Just like a few of our nicest friends, we got Cognitive Clips in the chat. We got High Score Weekly in the chat. We have first-time chatter Steven Gonzalez 714 hashtag flood the market. Steven, welcome, man.
My guy.
Be like these people. Be like these beautiful people. Follow us at Spotlight Games Pod so that you're notified when we go live, so you can be part of the conversation. I mentioned earlier, Gianni found us generally through the Dido sphere. And, it's another week, which means we have a lot of Dido content coming at you. Last night, JK Games had their first official episode of the Video Games Book Club. Their first game is Tears of the Kingdom. So check them out, twitch.tv/JK Games Podcast. And then later this week, twitch.tv/drop-in-drop-out pod. My sweet dumpster boy taking over again with an episode of Save Trash Cinema. If you tuned into our last drop in, drop out Save Trash Cinema, you know that some naughtiness is afoot. They're covering this time Donkey Kong Legend of the Crystal Skull, Legend of the Hidden Temple, something. It's some fucking cartoon from the 90s.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, Crystal Coconut. Thank you, High School Rookie. I was like, I know Josh will save me. And hey, it's free on YouTube. So if you want to watch it before the episode this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, join the Discord. There's a link in there. It's going to be a very unhinged time. It's going to be, I'm not going to be here. And part of me is like, I might be dodging a bullet, but then I'm like, oh no, this might be what sinks Dido. Who knows? But I'm very excited. No, I only joke. It's going to be a great time. Coal Mines in the chat. I'd watch DK Legend of the Shit. Well, maybe one day we'll get that produced. Gianni, as you know, and as I think a lot of people in the chat know, you are dying currently, I think. Okay.
The espresso. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. We start our episodes here at Spotlight Games with what we've been playing. Gianni, your first time on the show.
Yeah,
you've been playing a lot of games this year.
Yes,
I'm sure.
I have.
What are you playing now? What have you been playing this year? I want to get to know a little bit about what kind of games Gianni plays. So actually, let's not start with what you're playing right now. Let's work our way up to that. Let's start from Gianni's childhood. When did you first get into games? Like, what was the quintessential Gianni as a child game?
Oh man, I've been playing games since I was a toddler. I said this in my most recent video. Excuse me, man, that espresso.
You are
it's cinnamon. It's a cinnamon. No, I've been playing games since I was a toddler. I always tell people, my dad was a gamer. My dad's a big kid, right? He is a stand-up comedian. He's a voice actor. So I kind of grew up with a big kid as a dad. My grandmother played video games at the house. So, I mean, I've been playing games as long as I could hold the controller. I know that's kind of a cliche, but way back in NES, Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, Metroid. Those are kind of like my earliest gaming memories. Tetris on the Game Boy. Those are kind of like my earliest gaming memories. That's how I learned how to read. Was watching my dad play Zelda.
What was grandma playing?
Oh my gosh. My grandma played anything. She loved Tetris. So if we weren't playing cards or board games, she was playing Tetris.
Yeah.
That was her big thing.
My Nana played so much Dr. Mario.
Right.
When I was a little older and we had like the N64, then the GameCube, anytime we would go to Nana's house, she still had the NES and she would just be ripping on Dr. Mario. And so there was this like little basket of all of the old NES games. It was like, oh yeah, we're visiting Nana. Let's play some old games. These fucking ancient games. But it was always very fun. Hell yeah to grandma's that game.
Heck yeah.
How about the last few years? Like, so what's the, like, do you have like a genre you like to play most? Is it narrative based? Is it online multiplayer? Like what are some standouts for you the last few years?
I typically do mostly story-based, narrative-driven titles. I've always been a fan of more action-oriented RPG games, things like that. And then most recently in these last couple years, finally bit the FromSoft Dark Souls bug. So I've been kind of on a tip there as well, but mostly narrative driven games. I don't do a whole lot of online gaming. I don't do a whole lot of multiplayer. I do love a good couch co-op experience. I used to play a lot of couch co-op games with my dad, with friends, but not much in the way of like competitive multiplayer. So mostly story experiences for sure.
Hell yeah. This year, what you're playing? What's your game of the year so far? Let's start there.
Oh my God. Do I even have to say Expedition 33?
Oh, sure. So I forgot you're one of those sickos.
Oh God, man. It's so good. I cannot sing praises of Expedition 33 more than I have. It's so freaking good. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I know it's not perfect, but it's so goddamn beautiful. And it brings me back to a time, I said this in my review, they have such a love for the genre, and that it's very specific, like mid 90s to early 2000s RPG, specifically those Final Fantasy experiences that I loved at that age, that they just freaking nailed it. And I love it. I can't talk better about it.
Yeah. Is there any game coming out that you think like might dethrone Clair Obscur, or you're locked in? That's game of the year easy for you.
Okay. So there may be. It hasn't gotten a release date yet, and it's way out of left field from Expedition 33. There's been a lot of great games this year. I personally loved Avowed. I was really big on Avowed. I know it was kind of a mixed bag on the reviews. I adored the Midnight Walk. I thought it was incredible. But there is a game that I'm crossing my fingers comes out this year. It's a game called Reanimal by Tarsier Studios. My daughter put me onto Little Nightmares last year, and I just became obsessed with this game. So I can't wait for Little Nightmares 3, but more specifically, the studio that made Little Nightmares 1 and 2, they're making this game called Reanimal, which is kind of like it's kind of a mature, up the ante version of Little Nightmares, and it looks so good. And if they can stick the landing, it might dethrone Expedition 33.
Reanimal be released this year. So good.
It looks great. It looks so good.
I'm blowing my cover. I'm slowly pulling over the car on my phone to see, does anybody have Reanimal in Fantasy Critic? I think someone does. I'm pretty sure they do. I mean, I'm in trouble anyway. I'm out of money. I'm floundering over here, but
you got trees to worry about, Patrick. Don't worry about Reanimal.
Someone has Reanimal, and now Jordan can easily take that from me because he's in the chat. Shit. I kept my mouth shut. All right. So we've learned a little bit about Gianni. He loves a narrative game. Expedition 33 is game of the year. I used to play video games with grandma and dad. What a lovely fucking upbringing. What are you playing right now, Gianni?
So as the narrative-driven, story-based aficionado, someone who just loves a great plot, someone who loves a good storyline, great character interactions, I am playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 right now.
Amazing.
It is just so damn good. I know it just came out last night, but man, does it bring me back to it. It's just like Expedition 33. I think it's just the year of nostalgia.
Sure.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 is just, man, and different developer from Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2, but it's just, they just encapsulated that vibe so perfectly. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so 1+2, I want to say was Toys for Bob. I might be wrong on that, but it was definitely different from 3+4, which is Iron Galaxy.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So when I first launched 3+4 earlier today. I was like, this seems different. Like the opening splash was like, I don't recognize this. And it was probably the Iron Galaxy of it all. How about that?
Yeah. No, it's definitely got a little bit of their spin on it for sure.
Were you a big Tony Hawk fan as a kid?
Yeah. Oh my God. I think like any child of that time, you wanted to be a skateboarder. You wanted to be Tony Hawk. You wanted to be in Birdhouse. You owned a skateboard. You couldn't do shit with it.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I had a ramp. I couldn't use that thing. I love Tony Hawk. I didn't play Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, but I jumped on for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and I fell in love. Plus, music being such an important part of my life, I feel like those Tony Hawk games were very kind of informative on my taste in music. I think that's such a big pull of those games for kids that kind of played them, in their, 7 years old to their teenage years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. We played so much Tony Hawk growing up. And I remember when 1 and 2 dropped a couple years ago, I wanted to like it so much more than I did, but there were some issues with that re-release, but nothing like too major, but it just like didn't get its teeth in me last time around. But I got this and I got it on the Switch because I remember one of the things that I had an issue with last time, it's my own issue, but I was like, I really want to be able to play this in handheld mode because I got it on the PlayStation. This was like pre-Portal. It's like this game, because like you, I tend to lean narrative focused. So like usually if a game has no narrative, it's hard for me to want to play it on the TV. I typically want this so that I can be multitasking. So I can be digesting some kind of narrative from a different screen because my brain is broken. And so I got that here on the Switch and I am struggling, Gianni. I played for like 25 minutes earlier and I was like, were these games always this hard or am I just so rusty on Tony Hawk? And I was texting with Cayman, who as you know, is not on the show tonight. And he at first was like, dude, this is like, I'm having a bad time with how hard this is. And he texted me a little bit before I went live. He's like, it's finally clicking. I was like, okay, this gives me so much hope that if it's clicking for you after a little bit, I'm sure it's going to click for me after a little bit. Because I'm about to be on an 8-hour flight and I want to be finding all the secret tapes for those 8 hours that I can. You said you wanted to be Tony Hawk when you were little. I wanted to be Kareem Campbell. He was my favorite skater. I love Kareem Campbell. I love that he's back in this one. With this game, Gianni, you've put more time into it than me. I've only put like 20-ish, 30-ish minutes. Do you see any like rough edges or anything, or do you feel like this is just Tony Hawk but silky smooth and better?
It's tough, right? Because I think one of the big pieces of discourse around 3+4 specifically was that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 was when they opened up the maps and they got rid of the 2-minute timer. So jokes aside, it was a little bit more narrative based, right?
Sure.
So, but with this, they've kind of dialed that back and they've added those 2-minute timers to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. And they've also gotten rid of a sizable amount of the soundtrack, which, if I'm being honest with you, a
lot of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of the soundtrack. I think for me, with the exception of a few standouts, I don't remember a whole lot of the soundtracks of those games. I remember the ones I loved, but I couldn't name you every single song. I think they did a great job of finding that kind of pocket that makes the most sense for those games. And I don't think that the open worldness of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, to me, this is me personally, I don't think it's that much missed. Now, inevitably, when they open up for Tony Hawk Underground, which is my favorite Tony Hawk game, I really hope they don't do the same thing. I mean, I think the whole essence of that game is the story, is the open world aspect of it. So hopefully they keep that same kind of vibe for when they eventually do Tony Hawk Underground. But I think the rough edges are just kind of like things that you might be just nostalgic about from your childhood that they still did a great job with making it work here.
Yeah, I remember liking the soundtrack a lot, and then once you open it up and you get to the ELA and stuff, and Lupe Fiasco's Kick Push starts playing, I was like, oh, what a vibe! This is so good. Do you think we're gonna get Thug remake?
I hope so. I think I think Tony Hawk Underground 1 was kind of like the like pivotal point for the franchise. I know a lot of people have a soft spot for Tony Hawk Underground 2. I really enjoyed the kind of more, to use a Marvel term, the street level kind of vibe of Tony Hawk Underground 1. And Tony Hawk American Wasteland was just, it was cool. It was fun. But you could tell they were really just trying to like really dive in on that, what was at that time, the next gen tech with the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. I think if they do a Tony Hawk Underground 1 remake, I think they just call it there, if I'm being honest with you. I think you don't want too much of a good thing. It's the reason Breaking Bad stopped on season 5. You don't need season 6. You know what I mean? So I think if they do, I think they need Tony Hawk Underground 1. I don't think they need anything after that. I think we got the essentials.
Yeah, I hope we get Thug. There's some voice in my head, in addition to the other voices in my head, that's telling me that we're stopping at 3 and 4.
Yeah,
but I hope that that's not the case. But I don't know. I wonder if, because Underground is just such a different vibe than the first 4. I wonder if that is something that if it's a much bigger to do than remaking 3 and 4, because remaking 3 and 4, even though, like you said, they made some changes to 4, is a good bit like remaking 1 and 2, where it's like it's the clear cut courses, the time, like that kind of stuff. So I don't know, but I hope they do, because I loved Underground 1 so much. I don't have as many memories about 2, and I barely played American Wasteland. But 1, that is my Tony Hawk for sure. Underground.
Yeah, and the thing with Underground 2 is, I think there's a lot of, if I remember correctly, there's a lot of Jackass Crew, Bam Margera. There's a lot of that involved, which I know that's also been kind of a lot of the discourse around this newest game. So I don't even know from like the legalities of what that's going to look like. But yeah, to your point, if they stopped here, I'd be fine. I'd be good with that. You know what I mean? But I just hope they just go that one extra step. And we just get my favorite. Give me my favorite and I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Heroic Headgear in the chat says it'd be cool if this opened the door to an entirely new Tony Hawk game instead of another remake. Now that's something
Tony Hawk
I never really thought about, of them, just because for some reason Tony Hawk just feels so stuck in time to me.
Yeah.
And the last new one we got was so bad. I don't even remember what year 5 was, but it was within the last 7 or 8 years, right? I think something like that.
I think Tony Hawk 5 was 7 or 8 years ago. I think the thing there is the cool thing with this new game is there's so many new skaters. There's a whole new suite of, I think there's more new skaters than there is old skaters.
It seems like it.
Yeah, but I think those games, when they came out, man, those skaters, they were superstars. Everyone knew those names. Not to say that they're not superstars now, but I think just the cultural zeitgeist of skateboarding is just, it's different now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So would it have that same pull, to Heroic Headgear's point? Would it have that same pull if we kind of just went off and did a different thing?
I also wonder, this isn't something that I've thought too much about, so I might be off base, but I wonder if, because I agree with you, the name, Bucky Lasik, Bob Burnquist, all these names felt like such big names, but were they big names because we were playing Tony Hawk games?
True. Great point.
Maybe. I don't know.
Great point. No, that's a great point.
Because, there's a lot of
big because we played it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know. I wonder, but then again, I don't watch cable as much as I used to, so I'm not stumbling across the X Games every so often on ESPN. So I haven't seen any of the new skaters in a long time regardless, but I don't know, that there could be something there. Yeah. Speaking of nostalgia, Gianni, a game I've been playing, again, very little because it just launched today. Backyard Baseball 2001. Ooh. Yet another remake from the folks that are bringing back to life the Backyard franchise. Were you a Backyard kid?
I was not. I knew a lot of people that loved it. I never got into the Backyard series. So unfortunately, I don't have too much nostalgia there. I know the art style because I think it was just so iconic. You know what I mean? But playing the games, I never was really one of those kids.
Yeah, as I've said on this podcast and Drop and Drop Out, I was obsessed with the Backyard games. And so I've been I follow them on all the socials. I want to know the second there's news about a new Backyard game, because when they re-released Backyard Baseball last year, I had so much fun. I put like real hours on my
Yeah.
Steam Deck on that game.
Yeah.
And then they released soccer on Steam, and I played a good bit of soccer, but not nearly as much as baseball. And I'm starting to wonder after today if maybe I have gotten my fill
Yeah.
of the backyard franchise. I still want to get into hockey and football when those drop, but so the difference for people that don't know with 2001 versus the one that they re-released last year, which they called 97, Backyard Baseball 97,
Yeah.
is that this one is when they started to bring in like kid versions of players in
Pros.
whatever sport. So we have like Mark McGuire and Barry Larkin and Chipper Jones and like Derek Jeter, like the stars of the time, minus a few that they didn't get the rights to this time. And so that I was really excited. I was like, oh yeah, because those are the ones that I remember more, because after a certain point, it was just like, oh, every backyard game has the pros in it now, regardless of the sport, once they got to a certain point in the history of the franchise. And so I was so excited to jump into this. And I played like half a game earlier, and I was like, I think I got my fill. And part of it is this game. I'm surprised at how different it feels from a menu standpoint. It's still like the gameplay still mostly feels the exact same. It's just like a little bit of updated graphics, but I feel like the menu, and I don't remember well enough because I was fucking 10 when it came out the first time. I don't remember enough from my childhood, but it's like, I don't know if I was just used to the 97 menus and stuff, or if they made any sort of changes here that are just like really unintuitive. And I'm like, I'm getting lost in menus, and I'm like, I basically play video games for a living. How am I getting confused in menus?
Why is backyard baseball complicated?
Right, exactly. I'm like, how can I just want to fucking like change my roster. Where can I fucking do this?
Yeah.
I don't want Nomar Garcia Parr on first base. I want him on shortstop. God. But I'm going to put more time into it, but I'm disappointed at first blush on Backyard Baseball 2001. But I'll report back. I don't want to necessarily damn the whole franchise because I had a bad 30 minutes earlier, but at this point last time I was like on cloud 9 with the first re-release. So I don't know. We'll see. Gianni, what else have you been playing lately?
So I've been playing a lot on stream, which has been kind of a different experience for me. It was one of the struggles that I've been finding now that I've been producing my own content, is playing stuff for fun offline versus playing online. It's a very different experience.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. So I've been spending a lot of time on stream playing like backlog things that are a little bit less pressing for me to take care of, so I can kind of just enjoy them and enjoy them with people. The biggest one right now being Death Stranding 1. So I admittedly was not a big fan of Death Stranding when it first came out. I'm a big fan of hashtag Kojima bullshit, but I was not a fan of Death Stranding 1. I think it came out at a just maybe it was just the timing of it. I don't know what it was. It was when I had just freshly moved up north. And maybe I just wasn't in the space for it at the time. But everybody I talk to says you got to get back to Death Stranding. You got to get back to Death Stranding. And I'm happy to say that I'm definitely enjoying it a lot more this time than I was the last time. I don't know if some of that has to do with the director's cut editions.
Sure.
Because I did hear that they added a whole lot of quality of life things. Maybe you could speak on that. I don't know what your history is with the franchise, but I don't know if it has anything to do with that, but I'm definitely enjoying it a lot more this go around. Cool. I think what I love about Kojima that also shows through in this, and I said this on stream the other day, is like Kojima is just like a mastermind of just creating this set of rules for his world that make no fucking sense.
Yeah.
And you just go, yeah, no, that makes sense. Here, this is where we're at, and this is how it works here, and we're gonna keep it pushing. And you enjoy it for that reason. It would never work anywhere else, but it works here. And I love that about Death Stranding.
How far in are you? Do you think you're gonna keep going?
I plan on playing it all the way through. We'll see. I'm also subject to sometimes, I don't want to say burnout, but I like when things end. I like having kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know you had mentioned that, you're looking at kind of like a 40 to 50 hour playthrough on Death Stranding 1. So, you know, as long as I don't hit that burnout point, if it stays as good and fresh as it is now, I'm definitely gonna stick it through.
Yeah. Look, as someone who just quit their job from burnout to pursue their dream, try to avoid any other burnout, please, Gianni.
I got enough burnout, all right?
Exactly. I would suggest, because I had a similar experience to you that I talked about on the show, where it really didn't click for me. Tried the director's cut a couple months ago, and it clicked for me in a big way. If you feel like you're like starting to lose any sort of interest, but you still want to play more Death Stranding, just go to 2. Watch a recap of the rest of the game and jump to 2, because Gianni, Death Stranding 2 continues to fucking blow my mind. Like, this game, I've thought so much about this. Also, welcome Ryan in the chat. We also had a few other folks join in. We got Bruttaman, we got Sin Bamaye. I might be saying that wrong. I apologize if so. Ryan says, who quit their job? Gianni did. He's pursuing content creation full time. And we're celebrating it tonight on their show. But hell yeah, I got it right. Thank you, or not thank you. You're welcome, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Death Stranding 2, I've thought so much about it. And I think, like Coal Mines earlier was saying, melatonin generator 1. I think the special sauce this game has that is speaking to me this time around, that I wasn't able to fully, I think, articulate with the first game, that I think I can articulate here, is that I think, even though there is so much Kojima bullshit in this game, even more so than the first game, I think it's so refreshing to see such a big budget AAA game be just like so unapologetically this dude's fucking mind. Like, I feel like if this game was being made by an EA, an Activision, or like, you know, being published by like a Microsoft or that kind of thing, I feel like they'd be like, oh, well, let's think of the shareholders. Let's think of, does it really make sense to have everybody's character with the name Man at the end of it? We had Dead Man last game. We have Die Hardman. Do we really need a Tarman? Do we really need a Dahlman? But because this isn't like technically an independent game, even though it's like definitely AAA in terms of the budget that they have, I love, like, so I don't want to spoil anything at all. But I got to this part in the game the other night where it was one of those like classic Kojima, like 10-minute cutscenes. And nothing as egregious as he used to in this game so far. Like, there's not the 71-minute Metal Gear Solid 4 cutscene, but it goes places. And like, I'm like knocking on the end of this game, the door to the end of this game. So what I'm talking about is like end of Act 2, beginning of Act 3-ish. And it's like the stuff that they're doing, especially with Troy Baker's villain character Higgs. I'm like, this is just so fucking awesome. Like, it's almost like anime in a way. But for me, like, I like anime fine, but I don't consume it all that much. Every now and then I'll get on like one of these like 8 or 9 episode animes, but you tell me that a show has 714 episodes, I'll never watch 5 seconds.
100%.
And so there's something refreshing to me about seeing like a fucking anime ass story with just like the most gorgeous fucking photorealistic graphics I've maybe ever seen, with such a weird cast of characters, with Dakota Fanning, George fucking his last name's escaping me, the creator of Romero. No, not Romero. George Miller, the creator of Mad Max. There's just so like, it's just crazy. This game is so fucking insane, and I am having such a good time with it. So I think if you're starting to get a little worried about Death Stranding 1, just go to 2.
Because, I think the FOMO might set in because everyone's talking about Death Stranding 2, and I just have a hard time wrestling with like skipping.
I get it.
So much of the context. But to your point, like, if I can just get the general gist of like, because now I not to spoil anything, because there might be people that are doing the same thing that I'm doing. I get the gist of what Norman Reedus' character is doing, where he's going, and who he's serving. So I don't know much beyond that I'll need in the next 40 hours of.
You really won't, other than the story. I swear to God, like, because with the first game, and that's why like Jerica's short the other day on TikTok that was getting so much hate of like, how could you skip the first game? I especially feel like in someone in your shoes where you have played like 10 or so hours, you understand the gameplay. The gameplay doesn't evolve a ton in the first game. Like it introduces some things, but like throughout the game, but I feel like there's something to be said with the first game about like, it really is more so Kojima building this world and like trying to explain to the audience what the fuck any of this means.
Like almost a setup. It's set up
the first game is so exposition heavy, and the second game there is a lot of exposition still. The world is just so much more lived in because Kojima didn't have to explain everything again. He got to have fun adding new concepts and new characters and new places and new things to get in your way and new challenges and that kind of thing. So I feel like it really is just like a much better, it's just such a much better one. And
I might do that, Patrick. I might take your advice there because it is definitely a commitment with so many great games coming out this year.
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm already behind. You know, I'm kind of like playing catch up at this point. So I might do that. I might give it a few more goes. I haven't like met Troy Baker's character yet. I know he's in it because the first time I played through it, I remember like meeting him, and I think that's when I dropped off. So I might just kind of like get to that point at bare minimum, and then kind of like weigh my options, because I am starting to see these screenshots and I'm starting to see these little like, you know, montages of Death Stranding 2 and like, oh, look at this sick ass thing. And I'm like, A, I don't want to get anything spoiled. And B, like, I feel like I'm missing out on some sick ass gameplay in Death Stranding 2.
Hell yeah. Before we get to the news, any other games you've been playing that you want to talk about before we dive in?
Some quick hits that I've been playing, which, you know, shout out to the Dido community for putting me onto both of these titles. I played Indica on stream, which was so fucking weird but incredible. If you are into some like you know, political and religious themes and discourse, I think Indica is a must play. And I also just yesterday did a full playthrough of Thank Goodness You're Here on stream, which one of my best buddies recommended to me, and I kind of been putting it off. And then I saw someone post about it in the Dido chat, and that was kind of the push for me to move forward with it. And my God, one of the funniest games I've played.
So fucking funny.
It's so I have some shorts going up later this week of just some batshit insane, like just catch you off guard funny. So definitely check those ones out. They're a hell of a time.
Yeah, I never finished Thank Goodness You're Here. I got so far. Rose and I streamed it together, and we streamed most of the game, and then I played a little bit off stream. But then it was the kind of thing where it's like, oh, this distracted me, that distracted me, etc. But so I might just go check the VOD.
There it is.
Twitch.tv/Gianni DiCrosta to catch up on that. Well, it's been not the most exciting week of news. Not to just like come to the audience and be like, well, the rest of the show is going to be boring as shit. It's not. There's some interesting things to talk about, but it's definitely not a jam-packed week, because I want to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. We are not going to be addressing the 9,000 Microsoft layoffs, because anybody that's listening to podcasts and gaming that listens to a podcast anywhere else about gaming, you've heard every single take there is. Fuck Microsoft. It's bullshit. They can't keep getting away with this. But that was like a week ago. It happened right after we recorded last week. So it's like, I think we don't need to necessarily have an entire episode about the bullshit that Microsoft did. But if you aren't aware, Microsoft laid off a fuck ton of people last week, canceled a bunch of games, closed studios, all this shit. And it fucking sucks. But yeah, it felt like, man, we've had this conversation enough, I think. So we're instead going to jump into a little news about The Last of Us laugh track play, because any chance I get, let's talk about The Last of Us. Neil Druckmann and Hallie Gross are leaving The Last of Us HBO. I'm pulling from VGC's Jordan Midler. Naughty Dog boss Neil Druckmann is stepping away from his creative involvement in HBO's The Last of Us show so he can fully focus on Naughty Dog's upcoming projects. Druckmann has been closely involved in the production of the successful HBO series, which stars Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Quote, I've made the difficult decision to step away from my creative involvement in The Last of Us on HBO. With work completed on season 2 and before any meaningful work starts on season 3, now is the right time for me to transition my complete focus to Naughty Dog and its future projects, including writing and directing our exciting next game, Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, along with my responsibilities as studio head and, head of creative. Co-creating the show has been a career highlight. It's been an honor to work alongside Craig Mazin to executive produce, direct, and write on the last 2 seasons. I'm deeply thankful for the thoughtful approach and dedication the talented cast and crew took to adapting The Last of Us Part 1 and the continued adaptation of The Last of Us Part 2. Gianni.
Yes.
High level, what did you think about The Last of Us seasons 1 and 2?
I think The Last of Us season 1 is I'm going to be a little bit hyperbolic here. I think that The Last of Us season 1 is one of the best seasons of television I've personally ever watched. I think The Last of Us season 2, 100%. I think it was phenomenal. I think it captured everything that was so special about the games. I think that the plot, quite literally, was completely lost on season 2. I think I'm having a tough time because I think that season 2, not to spoil anything, because there may be people that are playing through the game with this awesome chronological update that we might
which we're going to talk about,
or B, getting through the show for the first time. I think the second season just completely lost what made you love/hate Ellie, and I think that is such a crucial part of what made The Last of Us Part 2 so good. I'm having a tough time though, because I put my girlfriend onto the show. She fell in love with the show. She's not a gamer. She's not in it, but she's not even into like horror or sci-fi, but she fell in love with The Last of Us mainly because of Pedro Pascal. It is what it is. It's okay. I
get it.
But we get to season 2 and she's like, oh, it's even better than season 1. And I'm like, I'm so happy that you love it. And I want to love it for you, but I'm just kind of like, all right, well, I mean, I'll be there for season 3, but
for sure.
You know, there's no way I'm not going to watch season 3. I'm having a tough time loving season 2. I kind of like it.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, me and some Dido co-hosts, Jerica and Kayla, we have Clickerbait, which is a show where we just unpack all of The Last of Us on HBO because it's all 3 of our favorite franchise and video game. And when I first saw this news, I was shocked at like how much I didn't care. And like disrespectfully, like the more I've gotten away from season 2, the less I like it. And I don't think it's bad by any means, but it is such a step down from season 1. And I just feel like Craig is, it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, I look at the game, which was co-written by Neil and Hallie, and it was fantastic. I look at the show, you add Craig in, and an entire production crew and HBO over the top of it, making sure that they're following certain rules and aspects of production and whatnot. And it's like, okay, well, that's a new variable, so that probably has to do with why this isn't as good. And so it's like, now that Craig is the sole leader of the ship, I have mourned that we won't get a good adaptation of The Last of Us Part 2 now already. And so now I'm like, all right, let's fucking see what happens, I guess. But it is a bummer. But at the same time, it's like, I think part of the reason why it didn't affect me as much as you might expect as someone that's like so in love with The Last of Us, I think this is great news for Intergalactic, that Neil can really put his entire
100%
fucking ass behind that game. And it also is like, oh, Intergalactic even further away than I thought originally. If now he is putting his full
I don't think that's coming to PlayStation 5, if I'm being completely honest with you. I don't think we see that until PlayStation 6, which is fine. Like I'm a firm believer in just like delay it to all hell until you think it's perfect. It's no skin off my back. I don't think we're getting Intergalactic anytime soon.
And part of me also is like, I don't even, it'd be what a great way to launch a new PlayStation console with a Naughty Dog game, but I don't even expect it to be a launch title for PS6. I would feel like this is probably a year or 2 into the cycle at earliest. Because it just feels to me with how ambitious 2 was compared to 1 of The Last of Us, and how they leaned into the open world more, and they really wanted to bring in so much more kind of narrative, I don't know, chutzpah, whatever word I'm looking for. I feel like Intergalactic is going to be massive. And I knowing Naughty Dog and the polish and the level that they want their games to achieve, if they're making a game, let's just say the size of Red Dead 2, they're going to take their fucking time because they're going to want every corner of that world to look like and meet that kind of threshold that Naughty Dog delivers. So I'm thinking like 5 years minimum, and that's probably still not enough.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it's going to take. I think that the problem that a lot of these studios run into, and this is the main reason why I think Bungie fell so far from grace. And this is coming from someone who mathematically, Destiny is probably my favorite game of all time, just based on the amount of hours I put in. I think when they start spreading their hands so far, and I think with Neil, I think Neil's been kind of popping up in places, trying to, kind of be a specific type of person, whether you like that or not, it is what it is. He's clearly more on the Hollywood side of things. I think him dialing back into what made these Naughty Dog games so special and really just focusing on Intergalactic, I think that's going to be a big plus for Intergalactic. And who knows? I mean, maybe, again, not having so many cooks in the kitchen for Last of Us Season 3, maybe that bodes well for Last of Us Season 3. Craig Mazin's great at what he does. I think maybe they just don't understand the source material the way us fans of the game have been accustomed to it. Because I'm all for taking creative liberties. I'm never going to fault someone for saying, hey, it made more sense for our show to go in this direction. Doesn't mean that I need to like it. You know what I mean? And I think that the whole foundation of what made The Last of Us Part 2 so special was just kind of lost in season 2. So maybe, parting the seas is going to be necessary for the success of both the show and Intergalactic. I don't know.
Yeah. To close out this topic, High Score Weekly asks a great question in the chat. Says, do you think Intergalactic was hitting some friction and he had to bail on TLOU, or is it the other way around and he wanted to bail on TLOU because season 3 was going to be bad? I hadn't necessarily thought of it in that way. I feel like it probably was that. Maybe that there wasn't friction with Intergalactic, but I wonder if they had kind of reached a threshold on pre-production of like, okay, we have done all of the kind of pre-work to hit full-on production of getting people in the mocap studio, finishing the script, those kinds of things that we need the creative lead on. I wonder if it got to that point of like, okay, there is now no longer time to be doing both. And also, as the entire internet at large agrees, the quality is dropping of The Last of Us Part 2. Maybe that's because he was splitting his time too much and he wasn't able to give both enough love, perhaps. I don't know, but that's I feel like I would be surprised. Although I don't know, I say that I was gonna say I would be surprised if him and Hallie left the show because of TLOU trouble, but then it's like they both left the show. And
forgive me for my ignorance. Who is? I don't recognize the name Hallie. What was her role on the show?
She co-wrote The Last of Us Part 2 video game.
The game.
And
okay, got it.
She might have also had another role than just writer, but she was very
instrumental in the show,
instrumental in the game. And then she was brought onto the show as the co-executive producer and co-writer of season 2. Even though most of the episodes were written by Craig, Hallie and Neil co-wrote the last like 2 or 3 episodes with Craig. So she was, I think they're like Neil as like, okay, let's make sure that we're being good stewards of this story because we're the ones that made it. And I think from my understanding of the creation of The Last of Us Part 2, a lot of Hallie's, not to just like boil down her expertise to one topic, but I think a lot of it seemed like she had a lot of expertise in the like trauma and PTSD side of the game of The Last of Us Part 2. I always heard her talking about those topics specifically. So I think that there's something there of like, I don't know if she's like written in that before or like studied in that before. I'm not sure. But yeah, for them both to leave, that is odd to me.
Just weird timing. And the online, the complete sentiment around season 2, I think was like pretty generally, I don't want to say negative, but it definitely wasn't positive.
It definitely wasn't positive.
So it's not a coincidence that they both left, for sure.
For sure. And then one last thing, Colemine says, I'd prefer Intergalactic to be more linear. I agree. I agree. Next up, this will be a quick one, but Ghost of Yotei has a state of play incoming later this week on Thursday. We're going to see 20 minutes of new gameplay this Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, in the form of a new state of play. And it's going to be hosted by the creative directors, Jason Connell and Nate Fox. Gianni, are you a Ghost of Tsushima fan?
I never beat Ghost of Tsushima. I loved what I played of Ghost of Tsushima. I want to say I put in like 30 plus hours. To be honest with you, I was probably close to the end of Ghost of Tsushima. It was just one of those things where I think something else came out and then something else came out, and I just never. I do plan on getting back to it before Yotei comes out, because I loved what I played of Tsushima, and I never played Iki Island. That was before Iki Island even came out.
Yeah.
So, I plan on playing that as well as the DLC. I think my only nitpick with Tsushima was I'm kind of on the hate train of I don't find Jin Sakai like terribly interesting.
Sure.
But I love the world in which he exists. So to me, that's all I need. You know what I mean? So that makes sense. Wait for Yotei. Erika Ishii is fucking phenomenal. So
yeah, she's great.
To me, it is a selling point alone.
For sure. Cole finds in the chat. Ghost of no way will I be playing. Very, very good. I'm so stoked for this game. I loved Tsushima. I do agree. Like when I first played Tsushima, I was like red fucking hot on it. But it was the year that Last of Us came out. So it was like I was just, riding that as my game of the year by a mile. But I definitely was part of the crowd that was just like so unbelievably in love with Tsushima. And it's the kind of thing like the further and further and further I get from it, the less and less hot I am on the game. But I still think it's great. But I definitely don't think it's as like a masterpiece by any stretch.
Same. It's a good 8 out of 10, I would say, for sure, and, at minimum.
Yeah, and I think for you, like what you just said, I think that's something that I hadn't quite thought of directly. But I think Jin is a big part of that. I think he's not the most interesting character. So I am excited for them to bring in a new ghost. Because it was the kind of thing was like, what's the next one? Is it going to be Ghost of Tsushima? Like, whatever. Like, are we going to do Jin again? So I like that we're going to a new area. We're getting a new protagonist. They said that this the main theme of the game is revenge, which PlayStation Studios thrives on a game about revenge. So
there's revenge. Sign me up, Patrick. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's funny. Donkey Inferno, complete missed opportunity to call it Ghost of Tsushima. I swear I didn't steal that from you. We both just had the same thought. But I guess there's no way that I can prove that. Is this a day one for you, Ghost of Yotei, Gianni?
I am more hyped on Ghost of Yotei than I was when Ghost of Tsushima was announced. I think I think it takes place later in time too, so I think there's going to be a little bit more in the way of like technology available to blanking on the main character's name, but it looks like a fun time. I love the vibe of the trailer. That was, I think it was it the last state of play? They showed another extended trailer. I can't remember.
I think
maybe yes,
I think I think it was.
Yeah. I'm this is a day one for me for sure. And to be honest with you, I like the serialized approach. I think obviously they'll have some breadcrumbs there for fans of the original one because it takes place like 300-400 years after the fact. But I like the serialized approach. I like that there's going to be different ghosts, you know what I mean, at different points in time. At least at this rate, I kind of like that. So if I don't get to Tsushima, I'll be excited to jump into this one on day one.
Hell yeah!
I think it's October it comes out.
October 2nd. Yeah. That's right. There's also something to me. I love when there's like a name for a group that just sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah.
With Ghost of Yotei, the game will see the player hunt down the Yotei 6. I love the Yotei 6. I am locked in on the Yotei 6.
What do you think of the writers, Patrick? What about that name?
Don't get me started on the writers of Expedition 33. Capital T, capital W, the writers. Not to be confused by the painters, Gianni. Ay, caramba.
No, it's definitely a badass. I love the name of the crew. It's gonna be a fun time, and it has a very like Western look. I grew up with Westerns in the household, and I love that vibe. So kind of seeing that kind of spin on it, I'm super excited about that.
Same. Colemine says, I just felt like that if they kept the story within the first zone, referring to Tsushima, I would have enjoyed it more, but it just got so repetitive in the latter zones. If Yotei doesn't have the same structure, I'll be back in with a sale. I'm interested to see how they evolve the gameplay, or if it's more so just shiny new thing, new place, new protagonist, and that's it, or if they've really kind of like changed some of the formula. I think we'll probably find out a lot about that on Thursday. Let's close out the show with a little news spotlight. This is when we get a bunch of different smaller headlines from around the games industry this last week and talk about them. So starting with, I know High Score Weekly has been keeping his eyes on this. Final Fantasy IX remake rumors keep swirling. For the 25th anniversary, Square released a new anniversary movie. You may remember this is one of the few games from the GeForce leak from 2021 that we've still not seen. Just about everything else, at least from Square, has come out with Kingdom Hearts 4, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like there's one or two others. Are you a Final Fantasy guy, Gianni? I assume so with Expedition 33.
Yeah, no, I am a Final Fantasy guy. I'm more of a modern Final Fantasy. I jumped in with 7. So I know everyone. Obviously 6 is one of the most beloved ones. I think 7 is what really put the states on to Final Fantasy. And that's kind of where I jumped in. I never was a big fan of 8, 9. I played like Ghost of Tsushima. I played a good portion of it, never beat it. I was probably too young at the time. 10 came out when I was like 11 or 12. And I think that's when I was like fully able to like finally kind of understand what I was working with. And then from there, it was just nonstop.
And also Blitzball. I mean, 10 had Blitzball. Oh my God. Come on.
It's so
good.
Come
on.
So good.
Underwater.
It's not good, but it's so good.
It's no. The playing it is terrible, but the concept of the sport is very cool. Is great. Final Fantasy IX was actually my first Final Fantasy that I fell in love with.
Awesome.
I didn't have a PlayStation growing up, but I borrowed a PS2 at one point during high school, and I remember. For whatever reason, Final Fantasy VII never like spoke to me, but I remember always seeing the box art of 9 and being like, I want to get to know this little guy with a monkey tail. I want to know everything about this guy. And so I played through 9 through high school and loved it. And then I played 10, didn't finish it because I got stuck, and loved 10. But so I very much hope that we get a 9 remake. And I'm super curious to see, are they going the 7 route where it's like a total mega graphics, AAA, huge budget remake, or is it going to be more of like keeping it kind of in the original style? I
think though, on that same vein, I've gone so long without playing 9 at this point and it's that thing every year. I'm like, this is the year I'm going to play Final Fantasy, and I just never get to it. But now this is kind of like the worst kept secret ever at this point.
Right.
So I'm kind of just at that point where I'm like, let me just wait to play it. And I'll tell you the reason why is because Final Fantasy VII Remake, I fucking adored. It was my game of the year that year. And they did a lot of Tetsuya Nomura bullshit with Final Fantasy VII. Remake, right? I don't think they're going, if they make a 9 remake, I don't think they're going to follow the same path. If I had to bet, with the feedback they got from 7 remake, which I was all about, I think they're going to make more in line with a 1-for-1. Here's a crazy ass graphical update, new battle system, but it is Final Fantasy 9, soup to nuts, right? So
one game for the whole thing.
From a plot perspective, maybe they'll add some things, but 7 was very much like its own thing, parallel with Final Fantasy 7. I think 9. If I had to bet, they're gonna just update it with all the crazy modern sensibilities, maybe revamp the battle system. So I've kind of gotten to that point where I'm like, I'll just wait until they inevitably drop this remake. And I think too, on top of that anniversary movie that was dropped, I know the like one of the lead character artists from the original game also dropped some new artwork for Final Fantasy IX for the anniversary. I think that also bodes for like, all right, we've got new concept art, we've got new character art. Like this is something that is clearly in conversation over there at Square. So it's only a matter of time before we see it. Oh, I lost sound.
Oh no, I was muted that whole time, wasn't I? I said I brought up Jake's chat. Jake says Gianni looks like me, only hot and with hair. He's probably less problematic too. And I agree across the board.
I don't know
And
about
yes,
the hot part, but maybe the less problematic.
It's okay. You have to say that because you have to be modest. Me with my muted mic, I ruined it. Next up, Nintendo may have accidentally revealed. Oh, wait, there's something going on. Oh, we have the chat popping up on the screen. I don't know when that started. Nintendo may have accidentally revealed their next wave of N64 games. They apparently showed a trailer in May with N64 games blurred in the background, and internet sleuths have come to realize those games were actually DK64, Forsaken 64, Glover, and Super Smash Bros. Johnny, any of these N64 games get you to turn on the old Switch Online?
No. Quite honestly, I will say this. I was not so much. My brother will kill me. He might be in the chat too, but I was not the Nintendo side of the family.
Okay.
Past my like early childhood, that was my introduction. But past that, it wasn't so much. I think with DK on the brain, I might be trying to check out DK64 because I think Bonanza looks like it's going to be a game of the year contender this year. And with Super Smash Bros, I would say the original Super Smash Bros just not really my cup of tea. The N64 was like really the only console we never owned in my household,
Sure.
which is like the one that everyone had. But that was the one I had to go to my friend's house to play. We were really PlayStation brained, and then kind of once we were able to afford our own systems, I know my little brother was the one buying the Nintendo stuff. I was buying the other stuff. So I may check out DK64 just with Bonanza on the mind, but yeah. Other than that, I don't know if I'm going to be checking out Glover, Patrick.
Come on. A Gianni DiCrosta Glover stream would go so hard. I'm not even sure what Forsaken 64 is. But I'm excited to try out DK64. I remember like renting it at one time, but I never owned it. And then Smash, I agree with you. Like I was never a Smash kid. The first time I ever played Smash, I was in college, and it was the N64 version. But for whatever reason, it just like totally, I missed it entirely.
Yeah.
But I do think Smash on the NSO with online functionality.
Yeah.
As long as they don't, if they don't fuck it up, that could go super, super hard. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Next up, Arcane founder slams Game Pass following Microsoft cuts last week. Rafael Colantonio, who co-directed Dishonored in 2019, but has since left the company, was on record saying, quote, "Why is no one talking about the elephant in the room? Cough, cough, Game Pass. I think Game Pass is an unsustainable model that has been increasingly damaging the industry for a decade, subsidized by Microsoft's infinite money. But at some point, reality has to hit. I don't think Game Pass can coexist with other models. They'll either kill everyone else or give up," end quote. Woof. I'm sure the executive team at Xbox is not happy with that statement, Gianni.
Yeah. No, not at all. That's it's unfortunate, right? Because as a consumer, it's so hard to like separate your consumer brain from like the reality of things. I know Cayman's like the numbers guy, so he'd probably be the best person to speak on something like this. But like, as a consumer, Game Pass is having like the greatest year they've ever had in terms of like AAA releases on their platform. Expedition 33, Game of the Year contender. Avowed, Say What You Want, Game of the Year contender. Yeah. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4. That's going to be up there in that conversation. I'm sure I'm missing several. I haven't
Doom the Dark Ages.
Doom the Dark Ages.
Fucking, there's another bigger one that now I'm also forgetting. But like, we're gonna get the Outer Worlds later this year.
Too.
We got Oblivion remake. Like it's been a fucking easily the best year in Game Pass's history.
Yeah. So it's hard, right? Because like, how I know my question has always been, how the fuck does this work? Like, how is anyone making money here? It's great for me because I bought First Berserker Kazan and Midnight Walk. That was it. That's all I've spent money on this year. You know what I mean? For me, it's great. But from a business standpoint, like, I want to see studios stay open. I want to make sure that nobody's getting laid off. I want to make sure that people have jobs, and I want to make sure people have the room to create the things that they want to create, right? How is this working? Sure. Like, is it controversial? Yes, because it's a former representative of the Microsoft team, I guess, being with Arcane. But is it controversial? Like, because it's kind of true. Like, everyone's asking these questions and nobody gets the numbers. No one gets the answers. Like, show us the receipts. Like, how is this working for anybody? So I say good for him, but it's definitely not going to look good on him moving forward.
Yeah, I do feel like you made such a good point of no one sees the numbers. And we would see the numbers if Microsoft wanted us to. Yeah. If every now and then they'll give us an update on like, we have this many tens of millions of Game Pass subscribers. But in terms of actually like providing value to the bottom line, providing value to shareholders, which is all Microsoft fucking cares about, they would be talking about this so much louder if it was doing for them what I think they want the consumer to think it is doing for them.
Yeah.
Donkey Inferno in the chat says, I agree with the statement. I don't think Xbox will continue to make consoles after whatever the next one is. The next Xbox console would be Sega's Dreamcast IMO. They'll continue to publish games under Microsoft Game Studios, but eventually the console market will only be Sony and Nintendo. Yeah. I don't think that's a bad guess. No. Like it's the kind of thing where like with them partnering with ROG at the moment, it's like, I wonder if moving forward, it's just like, hey, this is like this particular kind of PC gets the Xbox stamp of approval, but past that, like, I don't know that we're going to get another Xbox.
They've clearly, and Xbox has been my primary platform. I have a PlayStation for exclusives. That's it. That anything else has always been on my Xbox. PlayStation, to me, PlayStation has always made the best exclusives. They make the best games. But I play my third-party titles. If I do play multiplayer, I play it all on Xbox because that was just the ecosystem that I became so ingrained in, when I was a teenager, right? Like, they're clearly throwing in the towel on the console. They've admitted that. Phil Spencer admitted that.
Sure.
They're throwing in the towel. They're trying to create an ecosystem. I love that direction. I think, but from like an optics standpoint, like, there needs to be a certain level of transparency before you keep shutting down studio. I know we said we weren't going to talk about it, but it has so much to do with this statement. Before you keep shutting down studios, before you keep laying off employees, like, you can't talk about those things without talking about what the fuck is Game Pass doing that's a part of this. And then on top of that, to hear all these conversations about, we're making these changes to make room for AI. That's like a whole other conversation that you're going to start having, right? Exactly. So again, going back to what Cole Antonio said, like, it's controversial in the sense that he's speaking out against a multi-quadrillion-dollar corporation, but it's not controversial in the sense like we're all asking the same fucking question, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then speaking of Game Pass, Jake Twitchin in the chat asks, what would you say to people, many of them, that think Game Pass is devalued by the presence of Expedition 33 on the platform? Some say it's too French and kind of blurry.
And windy. It's very windy too.
It's very windy. A lot of feet. Well, the one good piece of news that Xbox has gotten in the last 7 days of news comes by way of PlayStation. PlayStation's 2024 hit Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox with crossplay on August 26th. I don't know that Helldivers 2 has the juice anymore. And I don't know, as in like, I literally don't know if people still play Helldivers 2, but I do wonder if they don't, if this will inject a little democracy into the Microsoft consoles, because that was such a huge hit on the PlayStation last year. You a Helldivers boy, Gianni?
I jumped into Helldivers when it first came out. I got it. You know what I mean? It just wasn't enough for me to stick around for too long, but I definitely see the appeal. I totally understand. Again, kind of going back to, it's just not so much my sort of game. I think Destiny kind of really struck gold for me there, where it just was like this perfect intersection. Obviously, come a long way, but for good, better or worse. But
for sure,
Helldivers, like, I totally understand it, and good on them for moving over to Xbox. I don't think there should be any reason why there are solo platform multiplayer games. I mean,
agreed.
It just completely defeats the purpose. I'm not against, single player exclusives. You got to have a reason to go for people to go to your platform. Like, I get that, but why? I don't understand why, especially a game like Helldivers that put up the numbers.
Yeah,
they knew it was going to put up those numbers. It tested well, and it performed incredibly.
Yeah, it was a great time. Heroic Headgear in the chat, literally playing Helldivers right now. How about that? For democracy.
Good for you.
I have to confess, Gianni.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the generational run of Xbox Game Pass, I didn't mention South of Midnight, which I've been trying to say is my number 2 game of the year. And I think this is a sign that I need to admit to myself that that's not my number 2 game of the year, if I couldn't even remember it came out this year.
Yeah, I didn't even remember it either, and I reviewed it. I know that, we'll talk about a mix. I think that was more of a mixed bag than Avowed even. I love Avowed. For sure. I think South of Midnight, I was like, they did so many things so immaculately.
Yeah.
And then there was just things that I was like, what are we doing here? I think I know there was like a lot of conversation around turning off the battle system, and I'm like,
that's what I did.
If you have to do that, isn't that a bad thing?
Sure. No, I mean, like, yes,
I get, and they put it in accessibility setting, so you can have the conversation of, hey, it's an accessibility setting, which great, that's awesome. But I think the fact that came up in so many conversations, like, well, the good thing is you can, that's not what it's
for sure. I mean, you make a great point. Like, for me, if I couldn't have turned off the combat, it wouldn't have even made my top 10.
Yeah.
Like, the combat is just so boring in that game.
Yeah.
But I just, like you said, they hit the nail on the fucking head in so many other areas with like just
the music,
vibes, the music, style, the art style. Yeah. Oozing style from top to bottom. But I think that for me, it can't be enough to take it to the next level if it just has great style.
Yeah, I'll be when Compulsion releases another game, even if it's a sequel for South of Midnight, I will be there. Like, they have a lot of special things between. I thought the story was interesting, even though I felt like there was like a chapter. I know Paris Lily said it on Kind of Funny. Like, it feels like there's kind of a chapter left out of the end. There's a lot of threads that I felt like weren't really wrapped up cleanly, or were kind of puzzling the way that they were wrapped up. I will be there if they announce South of Midnight too. But I'm not missing anything if they don't.
Sure. I disagree there, in that I do think that would be a shame to not get a second one, because I think Compulsion is a good enough studio that I think, they took a swing with a new IP. Give them one more chance to improve,
make something. Formula. I'll be there for anything, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, Compulsion is a great studio. They clearly have found something special. I think they just need to dial it down a little bit, and we'll be cooking. You'll get a 9 out of 10. You'll get a 10 out of 10 game from Compulsion
for sure. Coal Mines makes a great point. They needed another studio to come in and help with the combat. Then it'd be an 8 or a 9. Because you think about their other games, at least that I've played, Contrast, which launched on the PS4, and We Happy Few, and like combat has never been the vibe. It's always been style, and like general vibe has been the vibe, as opposed.
And that was my thing. Like, exactly, it was like, either take it out and make it an awesome. So the reason I love the Midnight Walk is it was very much just like, hey, you're going from point A to B, but you're gonna love looking at everything. I think South of Midnight would have benefited from either doing that, or get rid of all the instanced bullshit and make it overworld combat, add a few more mechanics, make it, a little bit more engaging, but to just kind of have the same repetitive loop over. You knew when the encounters were coming, you knew why you were fighting, who you were fighting, because every time it was for the exact same purpose. It just didn't. But then you have those boss battles, and it's just like, these are some of the best boss fights I've played since Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a roller coaster for me.
Yeah. Oh man, Jake says, what's more surprising, South of Midnight being a 2025 game or Compulsion surviving the 2025 playoffs? Jeesh. But I mean,
that was my fear. Jokes aside,
for sure.
That was a huge fear for me. It was like, man, like, because these days I feel like a 6, 7 out of 10 from, a 70 on Metacritic is a freaking death sentence.
Correct.
And I was fearful when South of Midnight came out to kind of middle of the road reviews. So the fact that they made it as far as they did, thank God, because they all deserve to be open. Obviously, nobody deserves to be laid off or studio to shut down. But I am specifically excited to hopefully see them last way longer than 2025, Jake.
Jake is unfortunately cooking in the chat. He is on fire. Oh boy. Well, that does bring us to the end of our show. Gianni, what a pleasure to have you here on Spotlight Games. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
For anybody that missed the top of the show, Gianni quit his job to go after content creation full time. So go give him some love. Where can they find you, Gianni?
You could find me at YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram. Look me up, Gianni DiCrosta. I'm sure my name is there somewhere. It's my first name, last name on all platforms. I'm putting out long form content, short form content, let's plays, live streams. I'm doing everything you want to see. I'm willing to try it out within reason. But yeah, please look me up, and I look forward to going on this journey with all of you.
Hell yes. This is Spotlight Games. Every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, we are here talking about the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. Dropindropout.com. The drop in, drop out sphere. We have all sorts of fun things that we are working on. Jarek and Kayla with the Video Game Book Club, drop in, drop out every week with a new episode. Just goofing off about video games, talking about, this week we're doing Save Trash Cinema. Next week, we're going to be reviewing Donkey Kong Bonanza. We have a lot of fun stuff planned. And we are drop in, drop out pod everywhere on socials as well. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I will be gone for the next couple of weeks, but you are going to be in great hands. And hey, maybe I don't come home. Who's to say? Maybe this is my last time ever on Spotlight Games. The only way you're going to be able to find out is to come back next week. No, not next week. In a few weeks to see. But until then, shout out to everybody in the chat. Yuhla, Kayla, Ryan, Josh, Coal Mines, Jake, everybody else that was here. All the new folks tonight. Thank you for being here. We will see you next time. We're going to go send some love to Shay Noel, friend of the show. She's playing some Nier Automata. So go say hi to her. But until then, bye-bye.